This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. What's up and welcome to Q&A, the show where I take your questions and answer them here in video format. A ton of things to get into. We're going to talk about the aftermath of the Browns preseason game. This first question is from Schaffer, who says, was the fumbles today against the Chiefs Watson's fault or the running back's fault? Here's where my logic is with this. I only saw Jordan Wilkins fumble the ball a couple times. I did not see any other running back have issues with the handoffs with Watson, nor have I seen any other running backs have issues all camp with Watson. So it kind of has to be Jordan Wilkins' fault. It didn't look like, from what I saw on the broadcast, that like these were like especially terrible handoffs. Maybe it was a little high, maybe it was a little low, but nothing that an NFL running back shouldn't be able to adjust to. The handoff does not need to be perfect in order for it to be grabbed by NFL. There is margin of error there, or there should be. If there's not, then you gotta go, because everything ain't gonna be perfect from that exchange. You know what I mean? Scotty P says, with Dobbs gone, do you think the Browns will go out and sign a veteran quarterback? After seeing Mon throw a lot of ducks today, the Browns could sign a veteran quarterback, keep 3 on the 53-man roster. See, Kellen Mond's play is not going to dictate whether he stays on the 53-man roster. There's a lot of things behind the scenes. There's a lot of different roles in the quarterback room behind the scenes that guys have to fill. You ever wonder how Cam Newton's not a backup somewhere, but Blaine Gabbert is, despite the fact that Cam's career was infinitely better than Blaine Gabbert? Well, because sometimes these backup positions are more about skills that you would find in the office versus skills that you care about on the football field. Sometimes you ask these backup quarterbacks, these third-string quarterbacks, these second-string quarterbacks, to kind of be assistant coaches or assistants to the starter. You know, there's a reason Jim Sorgi stuck there with Peyton Manning so long, because Peyton knew that Jim's going to get the cut-ups that he wants. And that's really the job for the backup quarterback, or at least one of the quarterbacks in the quarterback room, is you need to get the cut-ups right. You need to be able to help me set up a workout if I'm going to come in at 5 in the morning. You know, you need to help me figure out where I'm looking at on this play and kind of be a teacher's assistant. I don't know if Kellen Mond is good at those things. I know he's not that good at football, at least at the NFL level, at least at the preseason NFL level, but that's not what's important when you're talking about the third quarterback. Kellen Mond will never play. Even if it comes down to Kellen Mond, he probably will never start a game for the Cleveland Browns. The thing that's important for Kellen Mond is, hey, how good is he at the stuff that Dobbs used to do? Because since Josh Dobbs is not there, I don't think they're going to expect the DTR to do those things. I think they're going to look at Kellen Mond. And the question is, hey, can Kellen Mond do those things, or do we have to get rid of Kellen, bring in somebody who can do those things, right? And the fact that Kellen was a more developmental piece that they brought in instead of like a infrastructure piece, I think that they're probably going to go and get a veteran to handle some of that stuff, right? Somebody who can do some of the paperwork stuff, right? You know, we don't think of football as a regular job because it's so visible and it is seen as glamorous, but behind the scenes of football, a lot of this stuff is a regular job. And the backup quarterback position, or at least the third string, or there's somebody in that quarterback room whose job is to kind of be an assistant. So that's what's going to determine if Mon makes the roster or not necessarily his play in the preseason. Wesley Jeffries, says, do you think the Browns keep Cade York or cut him or just bring in competition? Well, it's too late for competition. You're not doing competition in the middle of the year. Either you cut Cade York or you keep Cade York. If you go in between, that's stupid. You got no room on a 53-man roster for 2 kickers. So either you go for a solution or you don't. I think that, look, he missed that extra point, even though he got stepped on afterwards. And he missed that game winner, super low trajectory on a 41-yard field goal. That just shouldn't happen. And if that's the case, you got to get rid of him, right? You have seen this guy miss, I think, 6 times in the preseason? That's far over the limit. You miss 6 times in the regular season, you're cut. I think he's exhausted his miss total. He's got to go at this point. Chris Russell says, do you think that the preseason will make the offense explode out the gate, or all this playing in the preseason will make the offense explode out the gate because they got all these extra reps? I mean, not really. Like, I think they will feel confident, right? Because they ran some of this stuff at game speed, but it's impossible to tell how they're going to come out the gate. Some teams don't play in the preseason. They're fine early on. Some teams play a ton and they're not fine early on. I think it's going to help with their confidence. And if they get off to a good start in week 1, then that probably mean good things, but it's impossible to kind of tell that thing until it happens for real. Card Shark says, hey, Q, coming from the preseason game against Kansas City, how hyped should we be about this Browns defense? They dominated second stringers, first team offensive line for a series, I believe. I don't want to get too excited, but it just feels good to watch a defense that gets stops on short down yardages. When was the last time they consistently made plays on 3rd and short? It feels like ages. Love the content. Keep up the great work. I think you should be excited. And the reason I think you should be excited is, one, yes, the Chiefs starting offensive line wasn't in the whole time that the starters were in there, but as you mentioned, it was like a series. In the series, they looked pretty good. 2, Myles Garrett's not there, and they have looked this impressive. If they had just looked moderately impressive without Myles Garrett, I would be more in the category of still being rather conservative about my expectations for this defense. But, Myles ain't there yet. And it's not just that Myles isn't there. Everybody who's seen Myles Garrett this year tells me that Myles Garrett looks better than ever. So, yeah, man, I would be excited. Bam Beezy says, how do you feel about all the sports podcasts hosted with current and old players? Love the content. Have a good day. I love it. Any more insight that you can get into the NFL game, into NFL locker room dynamics, I think it's important, especially when you get some of the more unfiltered ones, right? One of my favorite player podcasts is The Raw Room with Darren Bates, because it feels like you are just a fly on the wall at Darren Bates' locker in the NFL, right? They are having the same conversations on that podcast that people are having right now in NFL locker rooms, in the same exact way, right? Sometimes you get these player podcasts and they're podcasts by players who are hoping to become broadcasters. So instead of it kind of mimicking that like athletes dynamic that you truly get in that locker room, it's more of somebody trying to emulate a broadcaster, which to me, it's not as interesting. There are guys who are good at it. I think Ryan Clark is good at it. The Pivot Podcast guys are good at striking a balance there, but I prefer it to be more on the, hey, this just got cut raw from the locker room. And I think the Raw Room does a great job of giving you a slice of what it would be like to be in an NFL locker room. Or like, it's very familiar if you just ever been in any locker room on any sports team ever. It's that same energy, and it's in that same, they're not dressing it up. They're not trying to code switch, right? It's just raw. What you would hear from Bates if he was next to his locker is the same stuff that he says in the microphone. And I think that that's one of the more intriguing podcasts out there. So I love it. I love getting more insight from players. They have a very unique perspective on it, and I love sports, and I love the more perspectives you can get on sports, the better, but it's important that you just take those perspectives as perspectives. Nobody's perspective is gospel. Nobody's perspective is law, but it's nice to have certain perspectives out there. Aaron Ford says, hey, Q, keep up the great content. My question is this. If it came down to 2 roster spots and you can only keep 2 of Austin Watkins, Diabite, and Ronnie Hickman, who are you keeping? Austin Watkins and Diabite. Ronnie Hickman has had some nice moments in the preseason and he has some good speed, but he's definitely a practice squad player to me. Sometimes in coverage, he kind of comes up weak. Has some good speed, has some good coverage ability at times, but his tape is certainly less impressive than Austin Watkins and Diabite. Walrus says, hey, Q, with Grant getting injured, Jakeem Grant he's referring to, what do you think the wide receiver room ends up looking like? And so with York looking mid, what do you think? I answered the question about Cade York. So with Grant, I don't think much changes because I wasn't 100% confident that Grant was going to make the team. Now with him having a serious knee injury, it's probably likely he gets put on IR. I think it's going to be Jerome Ford return to kicks, Donovan Peoples-Jones return to punts, and they're probably going to keep Watkins now. The next question comes from Adam Miley, who says, according to Spot Track, the Browns currently have the most available cap space in the league for 2023. If that matters any, should they use some of that they acquired for an emergency player, like a kick returner? Not really. I don't think they should be too pressed about it. This team does not need a great kick returner, so it doesn't make sense to spend money that you're going to need for next year on a great kick returner. You know, you just need somebody who can get the ball, fair catch it if they need to, take the knee, and not get a turnover there. You know, you pay millions of dollars for Deshaun Watson because you feel like he can score the ball if you get the ball on the 25. You know what I mean? I don't think there's any need to spend more money there. Soul Train says, hey, should we be worried about special teams going into week 1? I like the defense and am optimistic the offense will keep improving during the season, but I'm really unsure about special teams. I think kicker is where you need to be concerned. And we'll see what happens there, right? We'll see what happens with Cade York. We'll see what happens with other kickers around the league. We'll see. I think the cut down is going to be very interesting to see if the Browns are probably going to stick with Cade York after cut downs. But I wouldn't be surprised if like that day or two after the cut down date that they move off of Cade York. So keep your eyes open for that. He's going to make the 53-man roster initially. I think the challenge to him becomes after that. So thank you for that question, Soul Train. And that's going to be it for Q&A today. Again, I appreciate you guys coming on and asking these questions. Appreciate you guys subscribing. Appreciate you guys joining the Patreon. Appreciate you guys joining the membership tab. Make sure that you lock it down. If you're not subscribed, hit the link down below. But y'all have a great day. Have an even better night.